In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps people just like you in the know about all things retirement. I'm your host and financial advisor, Rick Everett, along with a full complement of panelists to include Financial Advisor Matt Goolsby with Market Advisory Group, CPA Joshua Cicora with Market Tax Services, Cory Hiebert, a Medicare specialist with Market Medicare Advisors, and Gerald Eidelman of Eidelman Law Firm. We meet with people from all kinds of backgrounds, people just nearing retirement, those who have already retired, and those who have been retired for a while. Matt, what story do you have for us this week?
Well, actually, I'd like to talk about two stories if we could. One that of a gal that was just nearing retirement, and then maybe someone else that has been in retirement for a while. First story we'll start off with was, her name was, I'm going to call her Jan. It's not really her name, but protect people's identity out here. You know, Jan was nearing retirement, and unfortunately, her spouse never made it to retirement. He actually passed away before they could both retire and enjoy that, and that's so tragic when that happens. But as she was nearing retirement, she lost her spouse, and she actually came to meet with us because she felt because she'd lost the spouse, she needed to maybe do some updating to her estate plan. And she actually attended one of our estate planning classes that we teach here in the Metro every week.
Gerald Eidelman, Eidelman Law Firm. This is an obvious life change that may trigger a review of someone's estate plan. Can you tell us more about her situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in her case, she had 3 kids and had a interest in delving into real estate investment. And in her mind, she thought that doing what's called a transfer on death deed would be sufficient to just leave all the property to her kids. What she didn't have in mind is what was going to happen between their 3 kids once they inherit this property. Some of them were rentals, then there was also her house. How are they going to work together to make sure that what she had prepared and set up would continue on? One of the biggest problems you have is that you don't have, you'll have one child who just wants to sell out. They want the cash, they want to be out because they may be in a situation where they need the money. And another child where they may be able to, they have a comfortable lifestyle and they like the idea of a continuing income. And how do you get an agreement between the 3 of them if you have nothing set up in place to prevent, I mean, to actually to develop the dynamic as to what's going to happen if 3 of them can't agree?
Almost like rules for distributing the asset.
That's right. That's
and
right.
She comes in and meets with me and Gerald, but because I'm a financial advisor, I can't give estate planning advice. So as she's having these concerns, I'm like, you know, we probably need to pull in an estate planning attorney. And it helps in that moment get answers in real time.
So Gerald, was there a workable solution that was able to address the desires of each of the children?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the things, it's really more to the desires of the mother rather than the children. That's really what you're trying to do, is trying to say, this is what I want your kids to do with this. And what we do in those situations is create a trust that lays out the rules as to what happens to those properties in a way that it allows for individuality as to the results. So if one child wants to bow out and needs the money, there is a built-in plan for a buyout from the other siblings. And the only way we can do that is through a trust. You can't do this through a will or through transfer on death deeds because dad does not control what happens after Jane was dead.
Matt, what tax concerns did she have?
Well, unfortunately, her and her former spouse, they had a financial advisor before working with us, and this previous advisor never really discussed with them how taxes will change when you lose a spouse. And that's never a pleasant conversation to have. I mean, one of our CPAs here and I have had that conversation many times. And while it's not a pleasant conversation to have, it's one that you need to have, of course, while you're both alive, because when you lose that spouse, not only will you lose that Social Security check and have to maybe take more from the nest egg or more from your portfolio, your assets to make ends meet on a monthly basis, you'll now be paying higher taxes. And we find this is uncommon because financial advisors are not really working with CPAs in-house. So I went down the hall, grabbed one of our CPAs, Joshua Cicora, and brought him into the room.
Joshua, how were you able to help?
This is always a tough conversation to have. Nobody wants to talk about somebody having passed away, and because it's painful. And then we don't like layering on more pain on top of that of talking about how taxes change. But taxes do change when that spouse passes, and it's not good news to be honest. When you go from filing a joint return to filing that single return because you're now single, everything gets cut in half. Your standard deduction gets cut in half. Your tax brackets, the amount of income they cover, all get cut in half. But a lot of times your income doesn't get cut in half. Yeah, you lose a Social Security check, but it's a smaller check. If there's survivorship on pensions, they're still there. Retirement accounts will usually be inherited by that surviving spouse, and so required distributions are still there. But the taxes are more severe. So it's usually an unpleasant conversation to have because I'm really coming in with the bearer of bad news. And so when we can meet with people before the spouse passes, we can talk about tax planning things we can do. We can make moves before the spouse passes, ideally. If it's recent, we can do it in that year. Last year, they file a joint return. But if it's after they pass, like it was in this situation, it's a tough conversation to have.
Had their previous advisor been working with CPAs, Medicare advisors, estate planning attorneys in-house, there could have been some preparation done there to make sure that we planned for that.
Right. We could have talked about like Roth conversions. We could have talked about moving other assets around so that they had a better tax answer moving off into that next stage of retirement. But none of that groundwork was laid, so
now
it was unfortunate.
Now her options are more limited, and that's what we're probably trying to say here, and not communicating very well. But if your financial advisor has only focused on the investment side of it, and don't get me wrong, those are important parts, but you need to bring in the tax considerations, the Medicare implications, the estate planning techniques, or maybe options you have available to you to distribute your assets when you're gone. But if you're not working with this complete team, how do people even really make an educated decision when they can't get answers from their financial advisor on tax questions, when they can't get help with their Medicare plans, when they can't get options for their estate planning?
And we'll have more on the story of Jan when we come back from the break, but you can easily see that it takes a complete team to get a complete retirement plan in place. Do you have a complete team working for you? What piece could you be missing? If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no-obligation consultation, we have operators standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. And be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. We'll be back with more of the show right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a feel of sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room, and we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life. Another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet regularly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
A few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely, the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, you know, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Hi, and welcome back into Ion Retirement. Before the break, we were sharing the story about Jan, who came to Market Advisory Group as she was nearing retirement. She'd lost her spouse and found her own estate plan needed some help. Also, her spouse's previous advisor had never addressed tax issues. We were able to help her on both fronts. Is this service? She had estate planning concerns, so you could bring in an attorney to address those and a CPA to help with her tax challenges. Matt, do you often find people coming to us from other advisors who do just the financial portion of retirement planning have holes or are seriously lacking in the rest of a complete retirement plan?
We do find that that is the case, and that's not uncommon for this reason. While you're working, you're saving for retirement. You're putting money away, and that advisor, or maybe just saving in that 401k at work, hopefully that account is growing over time. A little tough with all the volatility that happened last year, but hopefully that account's growing over time. You're not in a distribution phase. You're not trying to preserve that. You're not trying to take a look at tax implications. And then as people are nearing retirement, they come to either one of our classes, whether it's taxes retirement, a Social Security class, an income planning class, a Medicare class. We have all these educational events that we do for so many reasons, but primarily it's to make sure you guys are getting the education you need before you make expensive mistakes in retirement. Because we'll find that we meet with people like Jan's situation. It wasn't maybe an expensive mistake, but her advisor had never really talked about the tax implications when the day comes when she loses a spouse, or when someone would lose a spouse in that situation.
It was a plan that wasn't complete.
It wasn't, because they couldn't give the tax advice, estate planning help, Medicare advice all under one roof.
Speaking of Medicare advice, Cory Hiebert, Market Medicare Advisors, was she needing help with her Medicare options since she would be retiring soon?
Yeah, absolutely. She was getting ready to make that transition from her work insurance to her Medicare insurance. And she did what every single retiree does whenever they get ready for Medicare. They naturally go and they want to ask their friends or family members that are already in Medicare what they decided to do with their coverage. So when she came in to speak with me, she had a preconceived notion about what she wanted. In fact, she came in and told me specifically what insurance carrier and what plan she wanted and how much she wanted to pay.
Because that plan had done so well for her friends, because she wanted that for herself, but
Absolutely.
She had a unique situation, didn't she?
Yeah, whenever you look at anybody's Medicare planning, I always ask, if you got a recommendation and that's what you want to do you see the same exact doctors that your friends are seeing? Do you take the same exact medications that your friends are taking? And the answer is typically no for most people. And those subtle differences can vastly sway what decisions we need to make when it comes to our Medicare coverage. So it is good to learn from friends and family members and hear about their experiences, but don't take that for the 100% you need to do this, because you will make mistakes doing that.
Matt, the number of people working with an entire team when it comes to retirement planning is lacking.
It is. I mean, we find this to not be uncommon of, well, when I ask my financial advisor what to do with my Medicare, they refer me to their friend that helps with Medicare. Or I had tax questions when I took this withdrawal, and they referred me to a CPA, but they didn't have them there in the moment when it would have been more beneficial to get answers to that. Or the estate planning, do I need a will, do I need a trust? We get that a lot. But working with this complete team allows us to, so I dare to use the word workshop, the problem in real time, and we get answers to people's questions. And oftentimes, just like my 6th grade science teacher, Mr. Lester, would say, when NASA gets the answer to one question, that normally generates 2 or 3 more because, oh, well, now that we know this, what about this and this? And if you're out there, if you're having to basically work for all these other people, and what I mean by that is if you have to run back and forth from all these different offices and take all the technical information that they give you down and make sure you're using the right vocabulary, the right jargon, and make sure you get the situation just right, and then take all that information back to the other professional and execute the plan, oftentimes it's not uncommon for something to get lost in between that mix.
A holistic approach to retirement planning, from the financial aspects to estate planning, Medicare advising, and tax planning. A whole team coming together for the benefit of the people we're working for. That's exactly what we do at Market Advisory Group. If you don't have a complete team working for you, why would you pay for incomplete advice? If you'd like to set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation, give us a call. Operators are standing by at 316-252-8707. And check out our website at ionretirement.com. Back with more of the show right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hi, and welcome back. Matt, in the first 2 segments of the show, we were talking about somebody nearing retirement. Do you have an example of someone that you visited with recently that's already retired?
I do, and this panel knows them well. They've helped them in not only tax areas, Medicare, and also estate planning. Michael and Debbie. They had been retired for at least a couple of years, if memory serves me right. Debbie, was a couple of years older than Michael. She retired before he did. But important to note here, they're a blended family. And what do I mean by blended family? Well, Michael had never been married previously, but Debbie had, and she had children and 2 daughters from the previous marriage. And one of the things that was really specific and top of the list for her is her father just passed away. and he had left her about $300,000 in some stocks. And she wanted to make sure that, nothing against Michael, her new husband, but since they didn't really have kids together, she wanted to make sure if she passed away first, those assets, those stocks went to her daughters. And because if Michael would remarry in retirement, that could get mixed up and maybe go to someone else. She just had a specific desire to do that. And fortunately, because we have estate planning attorneys in the office, went down the hall, grabbed one, brought him into the conversation, and the conversation could continue. I didn't have to say, well, we have someone we can refer you to, which is too often what we find happens out there.
Gerald, Eidelman Law Firm. Were there some important considerations in this particular case?
Oh, absolutely. When people don't realize is that once you come into a blended family situation and you have separate families, in this case specifically, she had 2 daughters, that you have to be very careful, A, not to disinherit your children, or if you want to take care of your spouse, not to disinherit your spouse. Here, there was a specifically important component where she wanted to leave that inheritance from her father to her 2 daughters. And in the conversation that we were having, we discovered that the money that was going to be that came from that inheritance was going to be going into one account. I only knew that because we were working with the financial advisors, an account that would change forms and types over the years, and that we needed to make sure to account for that money in a way that it could be tracked over the years. I couldn't just say, oh, inheritance money will be divided to the 2 kids. I needed to be able to say, this account will be divided. I needed to know what account it was. The account had to be titled properly. I could do all that because I was working with Matt at the same time. If we were communicating at a distance, I would have to tell her to do this, and she would have to tell her advisor to do that. Their advisor would say, oh, you need to do this. And it's a daisy chain that never ends. And the problem is that the client many times cannot communicate precisely what you said because sometimes they don't understand what you said. And so being able to work together at a team with people that understand what we're trying to do makes a huge difference for the client.
Matt, it's got to be beneficial for the clients to work and get real answers in real time. It kind of makes you wonder why all advisors don't do it this way.
It does. I'm blown away by, we've been doing this for a very long time, but we'll learn things here and there, but laws change, tax laws change, estate planning laws change, Medicare plans change, and how can we stay up to date on this stuff? And how can the average advisor stay up to date on this stuff if they're not working with a complete team that have these professionals in there? And Gerald's story is a perfect example of what I meant before the break, of how really who's working for who. Yes, you go hire an estate planning attorney to help you craft your plan, but if that estate planning attorney isn't working with your financial advisor, what could get missed? And that's the whole point of an estate plan. It's here to handle things when you're not. Yes. You won't be here to say, hey, well, I didn't mean for Michael to get this $300,000 that I inherited from my father. I meant for it to go to my 2 daughters, or if something happens to my daughters, maybe they're girls or they're kids. And what we find is this is happening more and more often. And because of how the rules are set up, people can't get that advice all in one place. So that's why we wanted to help people do that.
Joshua Cicora, lead CPA with Market Tax Services. What was their tax situation?
So their tax situation was that they were in a period of change. They had worked for a number of years, so their income was high. Now that they're in that retirement phase, their income has come down. They had a real opportunity to do some tax planning. In their instance, Roth conversions were pretty attractive to them, but their previous advisor had never brought it up.
It makes you wonder, probably because their past advisor wasn't licensed to give tax advice.
That sure is my guess. Honestly, I'm thankful that the previous advisor didn't give advice, because there's no guarantee it's going to be the right advice. They're not licensed to give that kind of advice. They aren't getting ongoing education to give that kind of advice. And so what we see a lot of times when that financial advisor tries to get out of their lane, bad things happen. Not because they had bad intent. I think they had the best of intentions. They just weren't fully educated to be able to talk about those kind of things. They didn't have the experience helping people with that, to know about the nuances and the pitfalls and the things that we run into, because we do help people with this day in, day out in this team environment where we see all kinds of different things going on, not just from my tax perspective, not just from Matt's financial advising perspective, not just from Cory and Gerald's perspectives, but we all come together and attack these things together.
Cory, Hiebert, Market Medicare Advisors, is there a Medicare story here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like most people, Debbie and her husband thought that when they made their Medicare decisions, that was set in stone and they didn't have to mess with it ever again. But naturally, inflation was coming for everybody by the time that I had met with them, and everything was getting more expensive, including their Medicare supplement premiums. Now, thankfully enough, Debbie and her husband were still very well off health-wise, and whenever they came to talk to me, we were able to change their Medicare supplements by going through underwriting, where the insurance company looks at their health situation and decided that they were able to change their policies. We got them identical coverage to what they had had previously and significantly lowered their monthly bill.
Matt, it's got to be giving people confidence to have a whole team working with them.
It does, and I think because they can work around this table with all these people in real time and ask questions, they're getting answers that make them feel more confident about their decisions they're making. And I have to wonder out there, if you're working with a financial advisor and you ask them tax questions, are they able to answer them? If they do, I'd be cautious about that. I use the example a lot of times. I would never go to my mechanic and say, you know, I've got this growth on my neck here. While you're looking at my oil change, can you take... My mechanic takes care of my car, my doctor takes care of my health. You need all those people working together.
A whole team coming together with a holistic approach to retirement planning. If you'd like to set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation, operators are standing by to take your call now at 316-252-8707. That's all the time we have this week. I'm Rick Everett, and on behalf of the whole team, we're here reminding you that we're keeping an eye on retirement.
Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns are not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not in any way refer to investment advisory products. Rates and guarantees provided by insurance products and annuities are subject to the financial strength of the issuing insurance company, not guaranteed by any bank or the FDIC. The guest commentators featured in this show are not investment advisor representatives of Foundations and do not provide advisory services. Market Advisory Group does have several investment advisor representatives that can provide such services. This is not endorsed or affiliated with any U.S. government agency, the Social Security Administration, or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options. All rights reserved.